you don't see it coming. That's the first thing you need to understand. You're walking, you're thinking about something completely ordinary, what you'll eat, where you're going, something someone said to you yesterday. Your mind is loose, unguarded. And then everything changes in under 3 seconds. The door, the voices, the hands on your shoulders before your brain has even registered what is happening. You're in a chair. You don't know how you got there. And the first weapon has already been used on you before a single word has been spoken. It's called capture shock, and it's not an accident, it's engineered. The sudden loss of environmental control forces your prefrontal cortex, the rational, decision-making part of your brain, to go offline almost instantly. Something older takes over, something animal. You don't think, you don't plan, you react. And a mind in pure reaction mode is exactly where they need you to be. The chaos at the beginning isn't the punishment. It's the door they walk you through. Now you're sitting in silence. You don't know what time it is. You don't know how long you've been here. The light above you is the same harsh white it was when you arrived. Or was it? Has it changed? You can't tell. There are no windows, no sounds from outside, nothing to anchor you to the world you came from. This is sensory deprivation, and your brain, which is essentially a pattern recognition machine that needs constant input to function, starts to panic quietly. Within hours, it starts generating its own signals. Shapes in the dark corners, sounds that aren't there, thoughts that feel like they're coming from outside your own head. You think you're staying strong. You're not. You're already fighting a war on 2 fronts, the room outside and the one your own mind is building. The cell was never designed to hold your body. It was designed to weaponize your imagination against you. Then they start playing with time. The light turns on at 3 a.m. A meal arrives at what feels like midnight. You fall asleep, and something jolts you awake 40 minutes later. Then again. Then again. This isn't random. Every disruption is calculated. Because here's what they understand about the human mind that most people never think about. You don't endure suffering with your body. You endure it with time. When you know how long something has lasted, you can survive almost anything. You tell yourself, 1 more hour, just 1 more hour. Take time away, and that sentence becomes impossible to finish. You can't measure, you can't predict, you can't count toward anything. And a mind that cannot predict its environment doesn't just feel afraid. It starts to feel like it isn't real. At some point, you stop being you. Not dramatically, not all at once. They take your clothes. They take your watch. Every object that connected you to the person you were before that room. Gone. And you might think that sounds manageable. They're just objects. You're still you. But your identity isn't only stored inside your mind. It lives in context. In the people who know your name. In the objects that reflect you back to yourself. In the routines that remind you every morning who you are and why it matters. Strip all of that away, and something deeply unsettling happens. They give you a number. And after enough time, you respond to it. Naturally. Without thinking. That's not weakness. That's the architecture of human identity being exposed for exactly what it is. More fragile, more environmental, more dependent on the world around you than you ever wanted to believe. Now it gets precise. Because everything so far has been general, designed to soften any human mind. But the next phase, this one is built specifically for you. They've been watching. Since the moment you walked through that door, they've been observing. What makes your jaw tighten? What makes your eyes change? What topics make you go still? What memories live just underneath your composure? They know your fears. Not the generic ones, the personal ones. And now they use them. The technique is called Fear Up. It doesn't introduce new threats. It takes what you already dread, the specific thing, the real thing, and makes it feel not just possible, but imminent, inevitable. Like it's already in motion. Like it started the moment you sat down in that chair. Here's what fear does at that intensity. It doesn't just distract your rational mind. It shuts it off completely. You stop analyzing. You stop strategizing. You stop being the person who had a plan. You become someone who will do almost anything, say almost anything, just to make the feeling stop. And this is the moment they've been building towards since the first second. But here's what they don't tell you. Before the fear fully peaks, they walk you somewhere you never expected to go. Backward. Not in time, in psychology. You're cold. You haven't slept properly in days. You don't know when food is coming. You don't know if anyone outside knows where you are. Every system in your body is running on empty. And then the door opens, and someone walks in. And they're kind. Not obviously kind. Not performatively kind. Quietly kind. They set something down near you. A cup. A blanket. Something small. They speak to you like you're a person. They ask about your life. They seem genuinely curious. And something in you, beneath reason, beneath everything you know about this situation, reaches for them. The way a child reaches for a parent in a dark room. This is regression. And it is the most powerful tool in the room. Not because you're weak, but because the part of your brain that responds to warmth and safety after prolonged stress is not the rational part. It's the oldest part. The part that was wired for survival before language, before logic, before you ever had the ability to think your way out of anything. Your psychological sophistication doesn't protect you from this. It just makes you more ashamed of it afterward. And while regression is softening you, they're confusing what's left. The questions start making no sense. Not threatening questions, illogical ones. Questions where every answer is wrong, where the rules keep shifting, where you think you understand the framework, and then the framework disappears and a new one replaces it that also makes no sense. This is the Alice in Wonderland technique. And it sounds almost absurd until you're inside it. Your mind is built to solve problems. That's what it does. That's what it's always done. When it encounters a problem it cannot solve, sustained, deliberate, unresolvable illogic, it doesn't adapt. It doesn't find a workaround. It fragments. You start wondering if you're the one missing something. If there's a logic you should be able to see but can't. If the problem is you. Confusion held long enough doesn't produce clarity. It produces submission. And through all of this, your body has been working against you too. The position they've kept you in isn't comfortable. It's not dramatic. There's no visible cruelty. But there is continuous, low-level physical discomfort that never fully stops. Your back, your legs, the way you've been sitting for hours that makes every nerve ending send one long, unbroken signal to your brain. Maintaining a story, a defense, a position, anything complex requires cognitive bandwidth. Physical suffering consumes that bandwidth entirely. You can't hold a complicated thought while every cell in your body is screaming. The exhausted mind doesn't get stronger under pressure. It gets honest, or it becomes whatever the person across from you needs it to be. At that stage, those two things are indistinguishable. And eventually, something happens that has no dramatic name. There's no moment of defeat, no single breaking point, no defiant scream before the walls come down. Just stillness. Psychologist Martin Seligman called it learned helplessness. It happens when a mind has experienced enough situations where its actions had no effect, where resistance changed nothing, where compliance changed nothing either, where every response you gave led to the same result. So the nervous system does what nervous systems do when they run out of viable options. It stops. Not from heroic exhaustion, not from a single overwhelming blow, but because it ran the data and concluded that effort is irrational. This is the quietest, most complete form of psychological collapse. And it doesn't feel like collapse. It feels like rest. The last thing they use, you'll recognize it. You've heard of good cop, bad cop. What you don't know is that serious programs abandoned that decades ago because it's too obvious. People figure it out within hours. What replaced it is something far more patient, far more human. One person, consistent contact, genuine seeming interest in who you are, your values, your relationships, your history, small kindnesses delivered reliably, a sense that this person in this place actually sees you. Not as a subject, as a person. And your need for human connection, which does not pause when you're under threat, it intensifies. It reaches for that. Then comes the blanket, the coffee, the extra hour of sleep. These aren't gestures of goodwill. They're debt instruments. Because the human psyche doesn't process receiving something neutrally. It processes it as obligation. Reciprocity is one of the oldest drives hardwired into us. When someone gives you something, even when you intellectually know the context, even when you can name exactly what's happening, your nervous system still generates the pull to give something back. And the weaker you are, the more a small kindness costs you. After all of this, the shock, the isolation, the time erosion, the identity stripping, the fear, the regression, the physical suffering, the manufactured connection, the debt of small mercies. They bring you to a moment, the thing you said you would never compromise. And you compromise it. Not because they forced you, not because of a single overwhelming moment, but because they walked you through 100 smaller compromises first, each one feeling reasonable in the context of the last, until this final one felt like the only logical next step. It doesn't feel like surrender. It feels like clarity. And here's what I need you to sit with. You walk out. You're free. The room is behind you. But you're standing on an ordinary street, in ordinary daylight, surrounded by ordinary people. And something is wrong. The street feels like the room. The kindness of strangers feels engineered.
The rhythm of your day feels like it's being controlled by something you can't see. You don't know which of your thoughts are yours and which were placed there. You don't know if what you remember is real. That is the final technique, and it doesn't end when you leave the room. Everything described in this video, capture shock, sensory deprivation, identity erosion, regression, learned helplessness, manufactured connection. These aren't exotic tools locked in classified files. They are the accelerated, intensified versions of dynamics that exist in abusive relationships, in controlling environments, in systems designed to make you dependent, confused, and grateful for the people who are harming you. You may never have been in that room, but your nervous system might already know the map. If this made something click, something you felt but never had words for, you're in the right place. This channel exists for one reason: to give you the language for what's already happening around you. Subscribe, because the next video answers the question this one left open. What happens to the person who knows every single technique, can name every stage, and still feels it working on them? Because that person exists, and understanding a trap doesn't always mean you can escape it.